to our X Spaces with Avalanche. We have Jake here today from the Avalanche team. We're super, super excited. Jake, maybe we can get started and have you introduce yourself, your role, and of course Avalanche, which I think unless you've been living under a rock, you probably have heard of them. But I think it would be good to give everybody an overview from your words.
Hello. Yep, can you hear me good? Okay, yep. Great. So appreciate you guys having me. Jake Svengers, have been a part of the business development team here at Avalabs for just under 2 years now. And so Avalanche is a layer one blockchain with a novel consensus mechanism. And we're super excited to continue to scale with our subnets, which we can dive into in a second. I sit on our NFT team and kind of focus on the creative side of things, but also work across our enterprise group and focus on consumer applications. And, that's kind of where this conversation had came from today. So super excited to be here. Excited to get in things today.
Awesome. And I was so excited to talk to Jake and to talk about Avalanche. I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Sin. I'm the CEO of D-Travel. And at D-Travel, in case those of you are joining aren't familiar with who we are, we're a Web3 travel ecosystem focused on the vacation rental industry and driving direct connections between property managers and operators and guests. And today we're going to be talking about the huge opportunity within travel and how it's going to drive mainstream adoption. So, Jake, I would love to understand what makes Avalanche different from other L1s. What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, so I think, with what we're trying to accomplish here is really, kind of create the internet of blockchain. So, meaning thousands of subnetworks that are interoperable and connected through what we're calling Avalanche war messaging. So, right now we have, I think, 40 subnets that are live, 40 subnetworks that are live. Obviously we're expecting and hoping to bring on hundreds of more, if not thousands of more this year. So super excited about, kind of what that is going to unlock. And, our tech team and engineers are rolling out what's called Avalanche warp messaging, which enables, communication from subnet to subnet to C chain, which is, our main smart contracts chain right now. So we're super excited to kind of roll out this vision that really connects everything in a seamless manner, but also allows for any enterprise, gaming studio, application, etc., to have kind of their own environments. And also with subnets, the customizability that it allows for, from the virtual machine itself to a custom gas token, to controlling the validator sets if needed, in case of different institutional use cases, etc. So super excited to kind of continue to see this sub network effects roll out and really see the big vision of kind of creating this internet of blockchains that are all interconnected, and the user experience is as seamless as kind of using the internet today. So I'd say that's really kind of our key focus and what differentiates us right now.
I love this concept of making it as easy for anyone to use the blockchain as using the internet. And maybe to kind of even further simplify that, both from the perspective of a DApp or a builder who wants to build with Avalanche, and then also from the end user who's using a DApp on Avalanche, what would be the differences or advantages of using Avalanche and the subnet infrastructure specifically?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, for the user is, and for the developers, is kind of creating this siloed environment for the application itself, right? So right now on C-Chain, if you go online, we have, thousands of different dApps that are deployed. And when there's hundreds of things going on through these different applications, obviously you're fighting for gas fees based upon an application that necessarily isn't yours, right? And so when you start to deploy a subnet and work in your own environment, everything that's happening on your chain is directly happening, and only to kind of what you're specifically doing, right? So if you think about these large enterprises coming online, and obviously the masses that they're hoping to bring online with their consumer bases, that they're not going to want to be fighting for space with, other folks and other applications that are going on say, C chain. So I think first and foremost is the consumer experience, and not fighting amongst other NFT mints or game releases or institutional use cases, etc. On the kind of back end side of things, what it allows for the developers is to really look at more of a consistent operating cost versus kind of the variability of gas fees on the C chain. So right now, to spin up a subnet, you need 8 validators, and then pretty much you can design, your virtual machine and everything like you would like in that sense. So you can start to really look at, okay, the variable cost for this will actually just look at the operating expenses versus the variability of, what gas fees may spike to on the C chain. So we have a handful of ways that you can spin up your own subnet now, but one of them being AvoCloud, which is our internal kind of cloud team that works with these large enterprises, institutions, game developers, etc., to deploy that infrastructure of a subnet as well as manage that. And obviously, there's a service fee to that. But I think that's one way we're really looking at how can we onboard these large enterprise institutions, game developers, etc., that may not have as much kind of Web3 architect experience or blockchain engineering experience. So we're looking at ways like that to mitigate kind of that friction of onboarding into kind of the Web3 space.
Yeah, that's a very helpful overview. And I ask because obviously for us being a builder in this space, one of the things that we're always looking at is where can we build and who can we partner with? And specifically for Detravel, I think one of the things that's really important is the infrastructure layer, because most of the people that we're onboarding, as you kind of mentioned, are those people who aren't really familiar from an end user perspective with blockchain, but then also even our customers who tend to obviously be businesses who are hosts running their short-term rental business. And I think this concept of gas fees and the cost to run different transactions becomes really important for the end user, because if you're a traveler, obviously you don't want to be paying for excessive fees to book something. And if you're the business that's running on a blockchain, you don't want to be paying for those gas fees on behalf of travelers as well. So yeah, definitely really appreciate the overview. I'm kind of curious. I think Avalanche has been really focused on enterprises, and you kind of talked about that a little bit, about making Avalanche enterprise ready. Why focus on enterprises, and who have been some of your partners and customers, and why is it that Avalanche is uniquely positioned to support enterprise specifically?
Yeah, sure thing. So we have 5 or 6 different business units that focus on those different things, right? So obviously, as I had mentioned, I sit on the NFT side. Then I also work across our enterprise group. We have our institutional group, DeFi, gaming, etc. So I think we all have our different focuses on kind of who we're striving to kind of bring on board. On the institutional side of things, on the enterprise side of things, I think a lot of enterprises need kind of custom solutions in order to kind of bring their businesses online. And so I think with that said, that's where subnets allow for that, whether going back to the example of having a controlled validator set, or allowing a KYC'd environment that institutions need for users to come online to know kind of what that looks like. Allowing for all of that, along with your custom gas token, your virtual machine, the language, really allows for these enterprises to look at their businesses and look at the roadblocks of what a traditional open public blockchain would look like, and kind of the hurdles that provides for them, and looking at that at a granular level to understand how can we customize some of these things at a subnet level that would make us feel comfortable coming online. So I think we're doing a variety of things on our internal Avalad side that is also looking at what does that ease of onboarding look like for some of these clients. And so things like creating our own wallet, which is our team is continuing to work on, called Core, and making that really a central space to look at the entire ecosystem, but also make it very easy to kind of onboard. So they just integrated social login to where you don't need to remember your passcode anymore, and things of that sort. That's really just looking at, to your point, Cynthia, around what is the consumer masses going to be coming on board to be doing, and how do we need to be kind of preparing for that in the easiest way? So with the work of what our core wallet team is doing, and then I mentioned also our Avocloud team, which sits a little bit more focused on the development of kind of these specific blockchains. We're always looking at how can we continue to make this ease of transition into the kind of Web3 space as easy as possible for both customers, but as well as for enterprises and their businesses as well.
I would definitely love to dive into the wallet piece just for a minute, because we're actually introducing smart wallets as well at Detravel. So what will happen is any operator that wants to create a crypto wallet and accept cryptocurrency, right now we just have MetaMask, but then very shortly people will be able to use their email login. And we believe that that's definitely very key to adoption, both on the operator side as well as the traveler side. So I'm kind of curious to understand, for you guys investing in wallet infrastructure specifically, what were some of the things that you felt was really important to the adoption piece of it? Were there any design decisions that you made differently than what exists with other wallets today?
Yeah, and we have a whole product team that oversees this, so I'm sure they could answer things a lot better. But I think just looking across the board at other wallet providers, but also looking across the board at, if you're an existing Web2 user and you want to get onto a blockchain, what are the steps that you need to take? And what are the friction points at all those? So I think obviously the biggest one is just the social login and not having to worry about a seed phrase and all these kind of nuances that you wouldn't understand unless you've kind of been in the space and have been experimenting, etc. So I think that was the biggest thing. And then from us, in addition to that, looking at creating this kind of wallet interface that looks across our entire network, that makes it kind of an easy one place to come in and look at, okay, I may be logging into this wallet to use this application, but if I'm interested in other consumer applications, this is what is available on our network. If I'm interested in gaming, this is what's available. Making it easy ways to stake to our network is available through our core wallets. And then as well as swapping tokens is as easy as as it can be in our wallet as well. So really trying to make it as a kind of a one-stop shop for our network, so that if you are kind of a new user, it's as frictionless as possible. And then obviously the hope is as people get more and more interested, then they can go and kind of venture off to the individual dApps, and it's kind of like the starting point for them. So super excited about kind of where that'll go. And I think we've been working with a lot of consumer applications in the last 6 to 8 months as well. And that's the one thing that I always continuously stress is, like, the onboarding needs to be as easy as kind of just logging into any other social media or any other Web2 consumer app. The user experience needs to be designed in that light. Really thinking from that perspective, I think, is like the biggest thing that I'm always speaking to my partners about. And I think 2024 is really positioned to hopefully onboard a ton of consumers based upon those things that we've kind of been building with partners in the background here.
Yeah, 100%. And, I keep saying this to people that I'm having conversations with, but it's really interesting. You have a lot of projects, including Detravel, who have a ton of traction. We have a live product, revenue, customers, and it's obviously meme season. So meme coins and other projects that are all about the hype are pumping, but then you have other real projects who have a ton of traction, like Sandbox, etc. They've been around for a really long time and they're just not doing as well. And I think it just kind of is an interesting time in our space where people seem to be a lot more excited about the hype versus actual projects. And I'm hoping that's going to change, especially with a lot of the infrastructure, like the wallets that both you and us are building out. In terms of the hospitality and travel industry, which is really what we're here to talk about, you guys recently did a report on travel and the opportunity within travel, specifically as it relates to using Web3 technologies and AI. Why that report? Why the focus on travel? I mean, obviously at Detravel, it's something that we've believed in for a really long time and have been investing in by building in the travel industry. And I think it's definitely a huge area of opportunity that a lot of people aren't really aware of, but is not like that sleeping giant. So would love to hear your thoughts about why the focus on travel, and where do you think the opportunity exists specifically by weaving in Web3 tech into travel?
Yeah, so this conversation actually had started with Blake from Myosin, and so I know we actually had been connected through Blake as well, and always working with different partners on a variety of different things, and they had kind of approached us and asked about our thoughts on kind of the hospitality space and our interest there and how we're supporting, etc. And so I think a lot of times we kind of jump the gun on, what we see in the day to day being in the industry, but a lot of times there's not as much public kind of knowledge about what this technology could be used for, how it could be used in your sector, et cetera, et cetera. And so they had came up with the idea to put together this kind of a hospitality report and really just talk about existing proof of concepts, why blockchain makes sense, what is the iteration of AI into kind of the travel and hospitality space, et cetera. And so it was really great to work with them closely to put together this hospitality report. And really, the purpose of it was kind of twofold, right? Looking at, what is this technology? What can it enable in the hospitality and travel space? And then also, working to provide tangible examples of proof of concepts that are currently happening, and then working out with them to develop their Jeeves product, which is essentially kind of a travel bot to where you can go on and it can help travel or kind of confirm your whole itinerary. But then, the hope in version 2 is also to actually book all that out as well. So super excited to kind of continue to kind of speak on this topic, because I think it's one that, as I had mentioned, there's some proof of concept and kind of with different airlines, proof of concepts and consumer applications being built in kind of the services space. But I think we're really, really early in this space. And so want to be at the forefront of having these conversations and kind of forging this industry space forward. And so always happy to jump on and speak with you guys, continue that conversation with the Myosin team and the Jeeves product. So that's kind of the culmination of really well how we got here.
Awesome. I definitely love the support of the travel industry. What are some things that you think we need to actually accelerate this move and the awareness around the huge opportunity in travel and Web3?
Yeah, I think it's really similar to kind of any other industry in kind of the enterprise space, in the sense that we need teams that are willing to innovate, and we need to educate them on why blockchain makes sense, new revenue streams that it can provide them, new kind of data incentivization plays, and then also it's important to kind of speak to the consumers as well of the benefits of using products that use underlying blockchain technology. So I think proof of concepts in teams willing to innovate, I think is a big starting point. And then I also think obviously having some of these succeed in the sense that, okay, now we've kind of had this breakthrough of why this makes sense so that other teams start to utilize it. I think those are some of the key things that we need. And then just going back to kind of the infrastructure piece. And again, we've come a super long way in my time here and working across kind of the enterprise and the consumer space, that along with kind of all these proof of concepts and all this education needs to come the infrastructure that is frictionless, that is seamless, that is existing to kind of consistent Web 2 experiences, so that there's no barrier of entry. So I think those are the kind of two big things, is focusing on the user experience and kind of frictionless experiences, and then also continuing to forge with these proof of concepts with actual teams in the hospitality, travel, hotel, etc. space.
Yeah, the proof of concepts definitely are really important. One thing that I think is really underplayed, or there's not a lot of awareness of, is how many big companies in travel are actually already investing in Web3 technologies. So Lufthansa, for example, they have an app called UpTrip, and I've actually used it, but essentially how it works is it's a loyalty app, and you scan your boarding pass after a flight happens, and then they give you this baseball card essentially, and you can pick based on where you traveled and the plane that you fly on and the airport that you go to, where you'll be able to pick the specific card that you want. And collecting a bunch of different cards will actually give you different loyalty perks. But Lufthansa is obviously one of the biggest airlines in the world, and this is something that they've been building for a few years already. And this is just one example of a big company. Again, Emirates, Etihad, they also have NFTs. And so I think that if people knew about how many of the big players are already investing in travel, I think Web3 as an industry would just be so much more excited about some of the things that are happening, because travel is one of those topics that's really sexy and everybody understands it and everybody gets excited about it. And so my hope is very much with more and more of these kind of conversations that people will start to wake up to the huge opportunity in travel, because it really is so game changing, specifically for something that almost touches everybody in the world. So definitely appreciate you coming on, Jake. And in terms of this talk about real world assets and real world services that's happening right now, I think that Avalanche seems to be a leader in wanting to support that, because you guys had the launch of the Avalanche Vista program, which is a $50 million fund and is really meant to accelerate the adoption of tokenized assets. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you guys are interested in specifically with real world assets and maybe some real world service projects?
Yeah, for sure. So our senior director Morgan on the institutional side has been a real driving force on kind of the real world asset adoption, and that focus for us specifically. And so, as you had kind of hinted at, we had launched I believe it's a $50 million initiative called Avalanche Vista. And really with Vista, the purpose of it is to allocate, up to that amount to purchase, tokenized assets that are minted on the Avalanche blockchain. And so, with that, I would say, to give an example of one thing that has gone through that program thus far was the Republic Note, which essentially was listed a profit-sharing digital asset via a platform called INX that's U.S. regulated. And so this note is backed by 750 plus companies, including the likes of SpaceX, Dapper Labs, etc. And anyone who purchased this note is then entitled to a share of the dividend pool when that grows via a profitable exit event. So allowing for things like this, I think, is something that blockchain does really well, lowers the barrier of kind of entry to some of these things. You didn't have to be an accredited investor here. Obviously, there was some KYC and some things that needed to be done on kind of the platform level, but that was just an example of like one thing that had come out of that Vista initiative. I think something that's exciting from kind of the NFT and creative side of things on our end is looking at where the real world asset and kind of adoption is going to look like in this upcoming year. And I think that lends well to the consumer space. So things like sneakers, sports cards, merch. I think those things, watches. I think these assets are going to be starting to kind of have a quicker adoption in terms of real world assets on chain than some of these obviously larger institutional cases. So we're really excited to kind of dive deeper into that. And me and my team are kind of doing our due diligence on a handful of partners to kind of kick off the year and continue to forge our strategy. One partner I will mention is Minuswap, which is already live on Avalanche. It's in a beta right now, but they are the team that came from Cool Kicks in LA, which is a kind of a streetwear and shoes vendor that's had a ton of popularity and success in the traditional physical locations of Cool Kicks and building their own brand. And so they have launched an NFT marketplace for real world assets and sneakers that they're starting out with. And so we've seen some really great excitement and adoption from their team. And as mentioned, we're speaking with a handful of different teams that are looking at watches, trading cards, etc. So that's kind of on the real world asset side of things and some things that I'm excited for. I think to your point on the real world services side, it's something we want to be at the forefront of, but it's just a little bit earlier than kind of the real world asset in kind of what's forging in that sense. So like you had mentioned, just different services like the travel industry. I know there are teams popping up that are kind of doing like decentralized ride share stuff like that. I think is something we're extremely interested in. And one thing I was hoping to talk deeper about, but actually the announcement got delayed, but I can hint at it a bit, is us putting together a decentralized consumer application hackathon. So there should be more information from our main Twitter coming out in a few hours here that speaks to that. But I think that speaks to our commitment in creating this, environment that we want to help support different consumer applications in kind of the services space as well as the broader consumer application space. So super excited about that. I think we'll hopefully start to see more and more in the real world services space as 2024 goes on. But we're excited about both of those areas for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk more about that because that's an area we're obviously extremely interested in. And I know we're just about time here. So one last question for you, Jake. We've obviously been talking with the Avalanche team about using your subnets to launch our Night Protocol and our booking contracts. For any projects that are in the travel space or even in the real world asset space, why would we want to consider using Avalanche over another blockchain?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think first and foremost, just from like the Avalabs BD support level, I'll speak to that first. I think, the way we really approach any and all of our partnerships is really a two-sided long-term focus, right? I think, a lot of times in this space, you see headlines and partnerships are driven by headlines. But for us, we really want to power products and we want to be there to support teams. And so whether that's strategizing on, kind of what the build will look like, strategizing on go to market, providing, product feedback, connecting you guys with different teams in our ecosystem, helping with social amplification. I think we're there from A to Z. And it's not just, from pre-launch to post-launch and then, we go on with other teams. So I'd say that's the first and foremost. And that's not necessarily coming from me. We have teams that, will kind of emphasize the, our strengths and kind of the partnership side of things. So I think that's, a really strong suit of working with us. And then secondly, on, kind of the tech side of things, which is, I think, where your question was getting at, I think, it goes back to, I think, our subnets and the customizability that they offer specific to consumer applications, specific to, some of these larger institutional gaming studios, etc. I think, again, allowing for, the custom development of things like your virtual machine, to your validator set, to your language, to your custom token, it really allows you to cater to your exact business and kind of the goals of that and bringing that onto a blockchain. So I think the combination of those two things has boded pretty well for us thus far, and there's so much that's being worked on for 2024 across all of our verticals on the business development side. So super excited to kind of chat with you guys and continue to stay up to date with kind of what you guys are forging in the travel space. And I'm sure hopefully we'll be working close here in the near future.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, we put out a tweet. So if you guys want to see that happen, definitely go and like that tweet so we can get that feedback. But also, Jake, I see quite a few people from the travel and Web3 industry. So I think there's definitely a lot of supporters and a lot of interest in building with Avalanche. So we definitely have to continue that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We should definitely continue that. And I know the things we're doing with the Myosin team and kind of continuing to work across the hospitality space. I think, only continuing to network and speak with like-minded individuals that are forging the travel hospitality will do us all well. So I appreciate you having me on today. It's been great talking to you and getting to know kind of what D-Travel is doing, and look forward to staying in touch and hopefully working together closely.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. We're obviously very excited to continue chatting with the Avalanche team, and also just to bring a lot more awareness to this really exciting vertical of travel and Web3. I think there's going to be a lot more happening in this space in this year, particularly as infrastructure and tooling and just travel grows. So definitely make sure you're following us, and I look forward to seeing you guys all very, very soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.